and today I am so excited because we are bringing Kathy, Lee, and Hoda back. How it all started. My person, Nicole Glass, aka Relli.
I was gonna say, it sounds so weird for you to say Nicole.
I was gonna say Carter Relli. I was like, oh shoot.
That's where Relli came from. So if you're wondering what is Relli was my maiden name was Carter Relli.
And my daughter Bria named you Relli because she couldn't say.
She couldn't say cards.
Cards. So we're back together, and I just asked Relli yesterday, hey, do you want to be a guest on this? Because this is going to be the first of 2024, and this is very special to us. This episode, it's all about really starting off the new year with being the whole cliche saying in air quotes right now, new year, new you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm when Britt asked me, I was like, have me on your mom, boss. Max, whereas like I feel like I'm like kind of out of place because I'm not a mom.
Okay.
But she's like, you're a cat mom. But she's
the mom qualities of every person you want in your life. So Relli's the yin to my yang. So for the listeners who don't listen to the Power Podcast, This is how we started. She's been my studio manager for how long?
6 years. 6 years. Yes.
And
I've been with you 7. Yeah.
7 years. Yes. And she's a cat mom. But when I tell you the mom-esque of her, the mom qualities, when I have a stuffy nose, there she is with the tissue and the Sudafed. If I have, and anything when it comes to personal and professional life. When I said, I need to know these numbers, there's the spreadsheet right by my side. She's an Enneagram 2, and I'm a 3. So
we complement each other very well.
Very, very well. And how can I not bring you on to do something like this?
I'm honored.
Because you have been the one that has inspired this type of activity and exercise, and also a new way of being, a new perspective on the whole, instead of resolutions, instead of like putting out goals, it's really more digging deep of being. And what we're talking about is be, do, have. And a lot of us, what we tend to, when we're talking about what we want in life or what we want to have, a lot of people start there first. I want to have this type of lifestyle, or this much money. I want to have these, possessions, or I want,
or things, or truths,
yes. Where instead we should really be shifting our mindset to being first, and it's about a lot of our core values, our mindset, and then doing, and then having. So first, when we're talking about, the paradigm shift of a lot of people look at that have, do, be, we are shifting it with, first we want to talk about how we want to be, and how we're going to do that, taking action. All right. And then that's what goes with your behaviors. And then that's where you are going to fulfill that have and that want.
Yeah. And this exercise came to me through our mentorship group. And we did it on a community Zoom call. And as soon as we did it, I was like, I need to share this with our team. It is exactly the type of inward-looking exercise and self-reflection exercise that has an impact. And you might not realize it right away. Like when I first did it, I didn't realize really the magnitude of what could be. And when Britt describes be on, being as you as a person, it's like, what qualities about yourself do you want? What are currently true? And what you want to be true. Yeah. And so, I know that we're going to be talking about the exercise and going through it, but it's so eye-opening because it forces you in a way to look inwardly on look inwardly on yourself in, it's both the positive and the negative. And that's hard sometimes for us to be like, oh, wow, these are really things I love about myself. Sometimes that's really hard for people. And, the opposite can be true too, is, thinking about qualities of ourselves that we don't love. Sometimes we try and put that in the back of our head.
I'm smiling because when Rels and I are in a meeting or some conversation, we're so aware of those unhealthy traits of ourselves.
Extremely.
That we'll say it in mid-conversation. I'm like, well, reactive Brit would say this, or defensive Brit would say this, you know?
Yeah.
And this is what's so good about starting off the new year and talking about identity and awareness. And it starts with a lot of what we talk about in Mom Boss Maximizer is the core values that we're talking about in the branding identity, but it goes also just in your personal identity and who you want to be. And that's the first question, and who I must be. Who do I want to be? And in this exercise, you know, Relli brought it to, well, first, like, growth is one of our core values at Power. And it is in Mom Boss Maximizer. It is in my home.
That is the number one core value that will always exist in whatever you do. Growth is so important to you. Yeah.
And when this was brought to our team, I was so happy just looking at Relli like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. You are the leader. And you're just you're doing it before me. And that's exactly where I'm going with this exercise is, you know, who do you strive to be? And then how does that look and take that impact and that influence on other people? So seeing Relli bring this, and it lit her up. So it lit me up because she was so excited to bring it to the team. And the team was really, they absorbed it. And
So
they
receptive.
So
Yeah.
receptive.
Yeah. And this is an exercise that when you do it the first time, like I said, it takes a bit to really absorb and understand what the current you and the new you look like. How do they behave? How do they dress? You know, how do you eat? What do you say yes and no to? Things that we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about, but it really, you know, when you reflect and, like you said, you know, reactive Brit or defensive Brit, like being aware of those things just at the surface is a huge deal, because that opens it allows us to see what were possibly blind spots in our growth. So
There she said it. Blind spots. We don't know what we don't know.
yeah.
And I actually love the saying that Zig Ziglar said, you've got to be before you can do, and do before you can have. So
that's so true.
I know.
God.
And that's why I started off this worksheet with this. And guys, we are going to, I say guys, ladies and men, if you're listening, I love you too.
All y'all.
All y'all. We are going to have a workshop on Sunday, January 7th at 8 p.m. It is an open workshop. We're doing it through my small coaching group, Unfiltered Freedom. But we are opening it up to people that really want to have some more personal development and to be challenged in a way where this is something different instead of just that whole 2024, what are your goals? What's your plan? And it becomes very overwhelming. So this is a different technique that I find very valuable, and we have to keep you can't just stop.
You have to revisit it.
Thank you. Reevaluate over time. And I like to evaluate, you know, every 3 months, I say, because
every quarter
seasons change. And I just had a call with in Unfiltered Freedom, and we talked about which season we're in, and it was, you know, between summer, spring, and fall and winter, and they all had, and metaphorically, it was just, it's really cool to see that everyone is in a different season. So reevaluating and going through this exercise is going to be very valuable if you want to be valuable, if you're ready for this.
Yeah, and that's the important thing is there are times where this can be valuable to do now and times where it may not be valuable to do now. You just mentioned seasons. If you're in a big life transition, likely not the ideal time to do this exercise because you're already trying to figure out so much. So to also add on top of that, okay, who am I as a person? That can get really overwhelming really quick with trying to figure a lot of things out at the same time. So keep that in mind. You know, if you're in the middle of, whether it's a job transition, maybe you're moving, buying a house, having a child, all of those things are big life events. Once that settles down, then take the time to do this exercise because your mindset and your head are going to be in such a different and more accepting and open space than if you're in the middle of a bunch of stuff.
Oh my God, I freaking love you. This is why we work so well together. I'm like looking at her just so proud. I'm like a proud mom. Oh.
All right, bruh.
She's saying that because my shirt says mama, mommy,
Mom.
Bruh. And
It's
that's what my kids say.
well,
all day,
it reminds me of
Hey guys, see right there? There's the camera. Look at that.
it reminds me of Family Guy with Stewie.
Stu.
He's like, Mom, Mommy.
Mommy, Mom. That's when that comes into my head daily when my kids are saying my name. They all want my attention. When I showed them this last night, I got this from a website that they showed me that they're obsessed with called
Temu.
How'd you know?
It's like Shein.
See,
Yeah.
she's mom ass. Are you kidding me? How did she know that?
It's also all over TikTok.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep,
she
there I am.
And it's actually a great freaking website.
Yeah.
I just got so much stuff, and
Oh,
I
I'm
took
sure.
this out, and I'm like, I'm kind of obsessed.
I love
and
it.
And I went downstairs. They were all playing downstairs, and I'm like, hey guys, I thought it was really cool. And Jade is like, Mommy, I don't call you that. I was like, but you say the word bruh every second. And Jordan couldn't keep his eyes off of the TV. So it was hilarious.
I love it.
Like, thanks for embracing my momness.
Yep.
Cool with you guys.
Yep.
Okay.
You are cool.
We're going to get into the exercise. We're going to keep this short, and we're going to do an example of what we did. I mean, we can use me as an example. I don't care. I'm putting
You
it
can use
out
me.
there, and I'm going to put in the notes also, we're going to link this worksheet so you can refer to it as well.
Definitely.
Okay. So when we're talking about getting into this old way of being, old versions of yourself and new versions of yourself, one of the first things that you want to start off with this is talking about name 5 words of your current or old version of yourself.
Yes. So there's, if you're a visual person like me, I drew on a piece of paper 3 columns. Column numbers 1 and 2 are your old way of being. Column number 1 in that is going to be 5 positive qualities about yourself. So I'll use myself as an example. Yeah, I said helpful, caring, empathetic, analytical, and patient.
Enneagram 2.
On the opposite side of that is negative qualities about yourself. They can be directly the opposite of a positive quality, or something that jumps out at you. You know, the challenge with this exercise is to not think too much. Classic me, I overthink everything. I'm like, what is the perfect word? Really, it's the first words that come into your head. And, you know, if you're struggling with like, oh, I can't think of a quality about myself, positive or negative, think about somebody who you either really admire for the positive qualities or really dislike, or qualities about somebody that you don't look for in a person. That may help you as well. So my negatives were no boundaries, anxious, chaotic, perfectionist, and messy. 110%.
Messy though? Would you say you're messy?
Yeah, my brain is messy. My brain is messy.
Okay, but I don't think you're messy when it comes to physicality, like the physical space.
Yeah, sometimes. So after you take all 10 of those words, look at them and try and this was the hardest part for me. Summarizing them into one word. It can be one of those 10 words that you already wrote, or it can be something totally different. The one that I came up with was giving.
Yes.
So,
oh yeah.
Yeah. So that was that's old Nicole.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to add anything on to that before I go to the.
Okay. I'm loving where you're going right
Yeah.
now. I'll give one of my old versions.
Yeah.
Unworthiness. And
It's very much Enneagram 3.
Yes. And that is very much because I've always immersed myself in work and used work as my way of being worthy.
And
so,
a coping mechanism in a lot of ways.
Yes.
You've identified that, yeah.
Yes, and avoiding the current and present emotion or feeling or what's happening in my life, and I'll just go right to work. But I've done that for, my whole entire life. I can say that. So that feeling of unworthiness has been a characteristic of myself, because of things how have transpired over time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's how you have shown up in certain situations, certain impactful situations in your life. Yeah. And I mean, being aware of that, a lot of people aren't aware of that. So like this exercise is very much meant to be a constant thinking exercise.
Yes. And it's meant for you to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's why when Relli said it might not be the right time, and depending on where you are at and what season you're in right now, of those and being aware of those blind spots, doing it with people is also very helpful. because
Extremely.
Relli knows me so well. And this could be, and you could do it with your partner, you could do it with a coworker, you know, close friends, but it is definitely much easier and just eye-opening when you actually do this with somebody else.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because, you know, Britt and I mean, we know each other better than a lot of other people in our lives. You know, me talking about her and her about me, and you know, me describing these words to myself, she might be like with the messy. She's like, I don't think you're messy, and I was like, there's things that you don't see that are so messy.
You don't see my glasses.
Yeah, you don't. But also, it helps validate what you're about to leave behind in a sense about yourself, and it'll make that part will make more sense when we go into it.
It's
Yeah,
gonna make a lot more sense for your relationships.
Yes.
And we talk about freedom of relationships. This is a great segue of doing this, so you can be able to communicate this about yourself, so you can feel understood, but so other people can understand you, and where that validation and empathy comes.
Yes.
So there's a reason. So let's keep going. Other old ways of being.
Yeah, so that old way of being, that is part one. So identifying 5 positive and 5 negative characteristics about yourself, summarizing those 10 words into one main word. When you do that, you're going to write your name after that word. So it's giving Nicole. That's the old way of being. That's my old way of being. On that third column, your new way of being, there's only going to be 5 words that you write. And these are...
I didn't follow the rules. Surprise. I put present.
You put like 3 or 4 words for each
it's
one.
actually something and something.
Well, sometimes it's hard to narrow it down. It really is.
But this is good. I'm glad we're doing this together.
Yeah.
You can hop on the workshop and lead it if you want.
Got you. So with your new way of being, you want to look at that column directly to the left of those negative old ways of being. Think about something. You're gonna think of a direct opposite.
Yeah.
So my negative was no boundaries. My new way of being is balanced. From anxious to calm, from chaotic to direct, from perfectionist to driven, and messy to organized.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. So it took me, I did this a couple of times. Just like replaying those words over my head. I'm like, it's hard not to overthink.
Yeah. You tend to do that just naturally.
Always.
How do you
Always.
feel about it now?
Yeah, so good.
Have you reflected on it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's
Check yourself.
yeah, and that new way of being, same thing that we did with the old way of being, is taking your words and coming up with one word. You do the same thing with your new way of being. So all 5 of those words, one of my words was balanced, and that's the word that I ended up with. Balanced Nicole. So that's the new Nicole is balanced Nicole. So from there, once you have everything in front of you, think about the new way of being. Okay, we acknowledge the old way of being because that is who we were up until this point, and now we're taking it a step further. We're growing from the old us to the new us.
Right.
Very much like you're saying resolutions. It's entering 2024 with a new outlook on how we show up for ourselves and for others. How do we dress? How do we eat? How do we speak? For me, I was a messy speaker. Very, very.
I wouldn't say you're messy.
In my head, it's messy though.
But
It's
I'm
very,
with you too.
very quick.
Because we have a lot of thoughts and we're trying to get it out so fast.
Yes.
But I've noticed how intentional you are when you're speaking. Where sometimes I'm like, I'm going to finish a sentence because that's what we're so used to doing with each other.
Always.
Where I'm like, no, let her be and just sit back. And it can be uncomfortable for other people. And that's but that's what we're thinking in our head.
Of course, it's always the story that we make up in our head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But just to see that you have been so intentional in growing in that, just something so little like that other people might not think, but you're thinking about that about yourself, and it has changed the trajectory of your leadership.
Yeah.
It really has.
Oh, thanks. So think about those things. I just listed a few. How do you dress? How do you eat? How do you talk? How do you operate? Think about your current career. How do you show up for yourself in your career? How do you show up for your relationships at home, in the workplace, your friends, your family? What things do you say yes and no to? Like for me, that no boundaries thing was a big one for me. So what do I say no to? It was very hard for me to separate, I'd be bringing work home with me all the time because I'm like, I need to prove myself this and that. And this is the own story that I'm telling myself in my head. Yeah. And then here's Britt who's like, no, you need to chill. Yes. Like, you need to take time for you. And I was like, for some reason, I was inadvertently seeking that validation that I didn't know that I needed, which...
That's just your own ism.
Oh, absolutely.
Gosh, she's getting filled up. I love you so much. Stop it. I was just talking about
that?
You and giving you a compliment in Unfiltered Freedom just now, because we were talking about boundaries.
Yeah.
And I said, when you have, and just specifically on a boss and a leader and creating the boundaries with your staff. And I said, before, the old me used to just text Relli anytime and say, like this, and this.
Hey, I'm in my think tank. It's 9:30 p.m. I just thought of something.
As I just did that last night. But I was very intentional with what I said.
100%.
Right?
Yes.
And that's the thing. Relli has created boundaries, and I've respected them so much, but she had to learn how to really be direct in her communication. And that's happened over time, and that's freaking growth.
It took a long time.
I know.
Long
because
time.
You never want to let me down or let anyone down.
Of course.
And that's who you are, and that's what we love about you. But it's not okay to then create more burnout, or that could lead into resentment.
Right.
So all these other unhealthy feelings because we're self-sabotaging our own happiness.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah. That's exactly it. And, it never got to the point of feeling those things. However, I knew that if I didn't think about myself and my own needs, because as we mentioned Enneagram 2, and I know you've mentioned that before in other episodes about the Enneagram. That's my number one, is being helpful to others, to my own demise sometimes. So learning that I can still do that without sacrificing the things that also make me happy on my own time.
Exactly.
And that's balanced, Nicole. And thinking about habits. What do I not do? When we shared these with our team, I said a big thing for me is quality relationships. Like my husband and I, when we're out to dinner, our phones go next to us or in my it's in my purse, in his pocket. Like that's our time. And that's something that is really important for both of us. And we'll call each other out. He's like, hey, like, you're texting your other boyfriend, and I say the same thing about him. You're texting your girlfriend. Like, we'll joke about it, but we check each other, because we know that time we're making time to go out together, because we both have busy careers and our time at home is limited. So when we're going out, that's special for us. So how do we make it even more special as we focus on each other?
Yeah, and it's so good that you're just showing this to everyone who's listening and expressing it, because it doesn't have to be harder than what we make it. This communication. And see, Relli used such simple words, even though it took you a little bit longer.
Yeah, I did this exercise probably 3 times.
Did you share it with Ryan at all? You did?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
See, I'm so proud.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to take some more of your advice.
I need to get him to do it. we're getting there.
We're
getting there.
First us.
Yeah.
Right?
But and I didn't mean to cut you off. There's another, when you're thinking about what does the new you look like, all the actions and the habits, the last couple of steps are finding either a physical object, which is commonly referred to as a totem. If you've seen the movie Inception, the totem for Leonardo DiCaprio's character is a top, or an anchor, which is an action or a habit that you do daily. That's going to serve as a consistent reminder of your new way of being. So,
for example,
for me, my anchor is journaling.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Every
Mine
night.
is...
I call it brain dumping.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're doing that.
Yeah.
See, now we're doing this like on the spot, making each other accountable.
Yeah.
I put an alarm in my phone Monday through Friday. I should do Saturday and Sunday.
You should.
You
will.
And it's just different times throughout the day of being present. And because mine is blissful, Brittany. And blissful is mix happiness, ambition, but also finding peace. And it's like, it's bigger than happiness. It's really, and so that it's really being mindful. And a lot of times for me that I challenge myself and I struggle so much with really just stopping and taking in all of the senses. Sometimes I'll have a conversation, I completely forgot the whole entire thing because my brain is messy just like this. Yes.
Well,
So that anchor or that totem
yeah.
Really does check you, hold you accountable.
Yeah. And to, what you were saying earlier about that feeling of unworthiness and needing to constantly be busy, taking that and you're directly challenging that with your new action, which is, I freaking love it. Like, the fact that you're recognizing you need to be more present, especially in those times. I mean, you're so involved with your, with your children and Joe, that taking time to just sit and be in the moment and not think about all the things that you have to do, quote unquote, are still going to be there in 5 minutes.
Right. That's what we're saying so much, and if you hear it, is less doing, more being.
Yeah.
And this is a great way of acknowledging it and recognizing it.
Exactly.
So, lastly, what is the other, just to finish this off, because we're at 25, I'm going to keep this nice and short, in terms of other questions that we're asking ourselves and reflecting.
Yeah. So,
what are some other questions?
So, we mentioned relationships. How are you? And how do you want your relationships to be affected by the new you? How do you want your significant other, your friends, your family to acknowledge and respond to you in certain situations? If there's specific situations that you're like, hey, like I said to the team, like if there's something that you want to talk to me about that I did wrong, like if in your eyes it's wrong or you want me to change it, I'm absolutely open to it. I love it if it's one-on-one. Yeah. If it's out in a crowd, I get real anxious. Yeah. And that's when old Nicole comes out and I'm like, eh. So I said one-on-one, because I'm all about finding solutions, like, and of course, that's the people pleaser part of me. It's like, I always want to help. So, being able to do that with the person it directly affects helps me be more aware and understanding and move forward more so than in a crowd. And it's like, then I get that like,
yes.
Everybody's thinking all this negative shit that I did, and I'm like,
right.
I write a story in my head that's so untrue,
of
but
course.
I can't
and then
get
it
out of
just spirals.
Exactly.
And everything else.
Yeah.
And this is great for moms to hear too.
100%.
Because it's all about like even how you're parenting. And
yes.
And when I say how you're parenting, every child is different. So hearing what Relli is saying, and that this is how we have to communicate to our partners or even to our children and ask them these questions. And even just like I love the kids in their age now at 9 and 10, where they're really self-aware and can understand some of these questions, or when you ask a question and they don't understand that, you have to expand a little bit more. But with this, how can I, like for Bria, she ticks differently. I always say she's my special girl, and she's been in therapy every other week for 3 years. And her therapist was just like, she has grown so much. She communicates so much better because I've learned how to parent her. I'm trying. She's not. It's just like a coach. A coach has to coach everyone differently. Everyone is unique in their own way. It's the same thing in the gym. So we all absorb content and information, but we also have to. So it's a give and take. Yeah. And it all goes back to communication and trust. And when we're talking about the freedom of relationships, this is really all about your relationships with anyone in your circle, anyone that you really feel that's important in your life that you want to, help and also grow with.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about here, I'm gonna offer some real parenting advice from experience. But I think about you and Bria, and I remember when Bria was young, you're like, I'm not sure when she gets frustrated, she's very, it's very
like a burst.
It's a burst.
Yeah,
yes, it's like a burst of energy.
What is that? A pressure cooker.
Yeah, and you're like, I don't know how to help her. And through her, with her being in therapy and you having conversations with her one-on-one, you've been so good at understanding the why, how you can help her, what she needs and what she doesn't need. Like things like that. It's like your kids are human too, even if they might not directly understand what you're asking. It's like, say, how can I help you?
How can I help you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's thanks for recognizing that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. She was 3 when you
I know.
But this is the same way. Just having that conversation with your kid is the same way that you want to have a conversation with your staff, with your colleague, with your friends, with your mom, with your,
Yeah.
with your sister. Just even like my family has definitely acknowledged, wow, you listen differently and you ask different questions.
Yeah.
And it really is about asking questions and giving the other person that permission to just feel confident and trust that they can and trust you.
Yeah. It's providing that safe space.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna post up these notes. There's a lot more information on it, but that is the gist of it, just what the exercise is. And then when you start to reflect, it really does make you just feel, you want to feel like you're proud of yourself. You want to feel like you want to accomplish, more about who you are, because we're constantly evolving and growing, and we want to grow with the ones that we love and the ones that we take care of and the ones that are surrounding us. So we'll put these notes and this worksheet in the show notes as well.
Yes,
And
definitely.
if you need questions, guys, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Please.
Also, make sure you share this. Subscribe to the podcast. Share it to someone that you might know that might help. Maybe even your boss, so they can let's try to do some things differently.
Hey, the best thing you can do is try.
Yes.
And whether they're going to receive it in that moment, or maybe they back pocket it for a little bit, you're helping them in a way you might not even realize.
Yeah. Personal development has been a game changer for me, for Relli. I can speak for you right now, for
Absolutely.
all of us here at Power. And we're on a constant pursuit of it. So we're here to help you on this transformative journey. And Roz, I love you. Thanks for joining.
Love you. Thank you,
I
too.
missed this Kathy, Lee and Hoda time together.
We'll be back.
We'll definitely be back. Until next time, keep maximizing your mom boss potential.